Okay, can you hear me? Muy bien. Muy bien. Buenas noches. Good evening. How are you? ¿Cómo están? ¿Están emocionados? Muy bien. So thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Mariela Aguilar Raya, and I am the publicist and program coordinator at Las Maestras Center. And it is my honor to be your MC tonight. First, we would like to thank all of the folks that made this night possible: the Multicultural Center at UCSB, Santa Barbara City College for having us tonight, the video services from UCSB, Care Hall for making the live stream possible, and lastly to our donors for allowing us to bring Sandra Cisneros to this campus today. And lastly, to the readers of Sandra and Cherríe, thank you for your continued support. And before we begin, I would like to remind the audience present here at the auditorium to silence your phones as we welcome Maestra Celia Herrera Rodriguez, visual artist and co-director of Las Maestras Center, as well as our Chumash elders, Roberta and Annette Cordero, who are going to do the land acknowledgements to the native land of the Chumash people here in Santa Barbara.
Would you like to meet them? Roberta, you want to meet Sandra first? Yes.
I was asked to do the land acknowledgement today, and but upon seeing Roberta and Annette Cordero, what I wanted to say was to celebrate life. All I want to say is that when we talk about land acknowledgement and we talk about the land and we talk about, we don't always think about how this land was gotten. What happened? We don't think about that part. We say thank you, for the generosity of this land, for the spirit, for the creativity of this land, for all of the peoples that put that energy into this land. But here are the peoples that put that energy in this land, and I think it's appropriate for them to be here and to give that acknowledgement.
Akulia, shumawish tipa shumawish. Anekordeo kakti, kapane shumolo kichuma she syuktun, ke hida halamu te limu de Swahili. I forgot the name of the village, sorry. Hello, everyone. Blessings and goodwill to all of you. My name is Annette Cordero, and I'm from the village of Siuktun, which is right down the hill from Santa Barbara City College. Although Santa Barbara City College is on the village of Mishpu. And I'm also from the island that you may know as Santa Cruz Island. We call it Limu, and from the village of Swahil, which is also known as Scorpion Bay. This is our elder, my elder and my cousin, Roberta Cordero. Some health issues have made it difficult for her to always speak right now, but she's here with us in spirit, and sometimes she lets me speak for her. Yes. So she's here in the flesh, she's here, her spirit is with us, and she is one of the great teachers of our community. So whenever she can bear witness with us, we are privileged to have her here. Whether her voice is silent or not, we hear her loud and clear. So I want to thank you for being here, Roberta. And I just want to let those of you who might not be completely familiar with the campus, because I was fortunate enough to teach here for many, many, many years. I just retired in 2020. Several of us just finished a project where we put a series of, I think, 8 signs along the bluff on the other side of the theater, recounting the Chumash history and culture and presence. And so I invite you to take a look at those if you haven't seen them, and to learn more about our culture, because we spent a lot of time and energy trying to make sure that it was told from our perspective, that we were telling our own story. So I invite you to look at those as well, and we acknowledge our ancestors who are here with us. We acknowledge your ancestors who may be here with you, and we invite you to appreciate being on this land, and as Chumash elders, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maestra Celia, Annette, and Roberta. Next up, we have the Assistant Superintendent and Vice President of Academic Affairs at Santa Barbara City College, Doctora Maria Luisa Villagomez.
Whoops, this thing moves. Wasn't expecting that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SBCC. My name is Maria Luisa Villagomez, and I am the Assistant Superintendent, Vice President of Academic Affairs at Santa Barbara City College. Thank you for being here today for this so very special occasion. Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos y bienvenidas a nuestro plantel educativo. Soy María Villagomez y la vicerrectora de programas académicos en SBCC. Mil gracias por estar aquí el día de hoy para esta ocasión tan, pero tan especial. Dr. Erica Androjanas, our Superintendent President, sends her regards and welcome. Unfortunately, she was not able to attend today due to another college commitment. La doctora Erica Androjanas, nuestra rectora, les envía gratos saludos y les manda una calurosa bienvenida. Desafortunadamente, ella no pudo estar con nosotros el día de hoy debido a otro compromiso profesional. And a very, very special welcome to our honorable guest, Sandra Cisneros. What an honor it is for me, for Santa Barbara City College, to welcome someone so very special to so many of us. Chicanos, Mexican Americans, Latinos, Latinx, Latine, and Americans for helping shape, enrich, and enhance our identities through her stories. Y una bienvenida, pero muy especial bienvenida a nuestra invitada de honor, Sandra Cisneros. ¡Qué honor!, ¿verdad? ¡Qué honor! O como decimos en México, ¡qué agasajo!, ¿verdad? Es para mí, para nosotros, tener aquí a alguien muy, pero muy especial para tantas personas, ya sean chicanos, mexicoamericanos, latinos, hispanos y americanos también, por contribuir a nuestro desarrollo, enriquecimiento y por enaltecer a nuestras identidades a través de sus historias. With that, I welcome you, Sandra Cisneros and Cherríe Moraga. I am so looking forward to this interview, and I am so proud that we are live streaming this interview from our beautiful campus. Con eso, le doy la bienvenida a Sandra Cisneros y a Cherríe Moraga, quien dará la entrevista. Estoy súper emocionada de presenciar la entrevista al lado de todos ustedes y estoy muy orgullosa de que lo estemos compartiendo con el mundo entero a través de el video, ¿verdad? Desde nuestra hermosa universidad. Con puro amor, uno de los títulos de su libro, de una mexicana a otra. Bienvenida, Sandra. Thank you so much y mil gracias a todos.
Gracias, doctora. And now we're going to have the Dean of Humanity and Fine Arts at UCSB, Dana Berry, who's going to have a few words for us as well.
Good evening. On behalf of the University of California, Santa Barbara, I wanted to welcome you all and thank you for this collaborative event. I know we were supposed to have this on our campus, and I think it's wonderful that we were able to come together and build our communities and to share this space together. We welcome you to our campus and our spaces, even when they open again. And I just want to say that we are in for a real treat this evening to hear from two prolific writers who speak to our hearts and our spirits. And I just wanted to welcome everybody and thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Okay. A few notes before we begin. We're going to have a book sale by the end of the interview. We're going to be selling them on that side over there, $16. And another note of reference, let me see. Okay, now we're good. So now, what you've been waiting for. We're gonna have another speaker. Alejandra Medina Valencia. She's a PhD candidate in the Department of Chicano and Chicana Studies at UCSB, and she's gonna introduce to you Cherríe Moraga and Sandra Cisneros.
So hello everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for being here on this rainy night. It is an honor and a privilege to introduce two wonderful writers, thinkers, and trailblazers. I am so grateful to both of them for paving a path to me as a first-generation Mexicana graduate student. First, I will introduce Maestra Cherríe Moraga. So Cherríe Moraga is an internationally recognized poet, essayist, and playwright, and the co-editor of the seminal feminist text, This Bridge Called My Back, writings by radical women of color. She is the author of several collections of writings, including a Chicana Codex of Changing Consciousness writings, 2000-2010, and most recently, Loving in the War Years. Oh, can you tell I'm nervous? It's an amazing presence that I have, so it's a big role. Thank you. She is the author of two memoirs, Waiting in the Wings, Portrait of Queer Motherhood, and Native Country of the Heart. Moraga is the recipient of the United States Artist Rockefeller Fellowship for Literature and the American Studies Association Lifetime Achievement Award, among many other honors. Moraga is a distinguished professor in the Department of English at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and the co-director of Las Maestras Center for Chicana Indígena Thought, Art, and Social Practice. Thank you, Profe Moraga, for everything you have gifted us. You have been a wonderful teacher and allowed me the space to savor Sandra's craft. As a Mexicana who grew up in Chicago, I have really found my family in those pages. So now it is my pleasure to also introduce Sandra Cisneros. Sandra Cisneros is a poet, short story writer, novelist, essayist, performer, and artist. Her numerous awards include NEA Fellowship in both poetry and fiction, a MacArthur Fellowship, national and international book awards, including the Pan American Literary Award and National Medal of Arts. Most recently, she received the Ford Foundation Art of Change Fellowship, was recognized with the Fuller Award for Lifetime Achievement in Literature, and won the Pan Nobach Award for Achievement in International Literature. In 2022, she was awarded the Poetry Foundation's Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize. Her works include the classic House on Mango Street, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, Loose Women, the short story collection Women Hollering in the Creek, the masterwork Caramelo, her essay collection A House of My Own, Stories of My Life, and her first book of poetry in 28 years, Mujer sin Vergüenza, Women Without Shame, among many other works. Yes, you can applaud to an amazing accomplishment. Yeah. In addition to her writing, Cisneros has fostered the careers of many aspiring and emerging writers through two nonprofits she founded, the Macondo Foundation and the Alfredo Cisneros del Moral Foundation. As a single woman, she made the choice to have books instead of children. A citizen of both the United States and Mexico, Cisneros currently lives in San Miguel de Allende and makes her living by the pen. Yes, Sandra, through her life's work, has invited us to look within and challenge us to ask questions to find our truth. I hope you are willing to take that step, to look deeper into yourself and find the wealth of knowledge that you already hold and find those answers that you are seeking. Thank you, and I invite you to help me welcome both Maestra Cherríe and Sandra Cisneros.
Before we begin, may I say something?
Please.
It's very hard for me to read when someone is uncomfortable. And these chavalitos here are sitting in a very uncomfortable seats. There are 7 seats that I count here in the first row. Vénganse, por favor. No tengan vergüenza aquí en estos asientos. Sí, aquí hay asientos. Porfa, si me hagan el favor, porque si ustedes están incómodos, yo voy a estar incómoda también. Por favor, si serían tan amables.
Is your mic, on? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, my mic is on. Gracias. Gracias, Ándale, ándale, no sean shy.
No sean shy. I think her sound is not as good as my sound.
Okay. All right, thank you. Gracias.
Huh? It's green, yeah, it's green.
It's green.
Oh, you have to put it higher, yeah.
Se cayó. Te moveré. Okay, is that better? Ándale. Okay, thank you. Gracias. And I'm sorry to have to make you move, but I will feel better if you're comfortable. Thank you.
I think I'm going to begin by making you uncomfortable. I'm serious. Okay, so this is the deal. The deal is that Sandra and I have never, ever spoken, just she and I, one-on-one, publicly. And that's...
We've known each other 40 years.
40 years. So I'm going to read a little, and look at it. I'm getting used to doing this. I've never done this in my life. But this year, for some reason, the other time was when I was when I did a honoring for Elena Viramontes, another wonderful novelist. And I opened up my journal, and I had a piece that I wrote to her, right? This is not a piece I wrote to Sandra, but it is about our first meeting. And it might make some of you uncomfortable. So, because I am a very, very queer Chicana. Just saying. Just saying. So, but when I sat down to think about Sandra and this event, and this I think I wrote it back in January, the end of January. The year is, when was?
1984.
1984, that's what I'm saying, 1984. I remember Sandra, her courage, to invite me into Guadalupe Arts Center in San Antonio. She was the newly situated literary director there. I remember my fear, reading alongside Rolando Hinojosa, el gran jefe de literatura.
That, Karen, I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know, but I suffered. It's all right. No, we both did. This is the point. I remember, okay, so then I said, reading alongside Rolando Hinojosa, me, the queer voice, untouched by Chicano literati. They had nothing to do with me and barely anything to do with just this whole generation of Chicanas that were starting in the late 70s and early 80s. We were absolutely second-class citizens. But Sandra, a rising star, did touch me. She brought me from New York City, where I was living at the time, and from my Black and Puerto Rican, my Caribbean sister community, to the Chicano heart of Texas. The sisters were waiting me there too, I found out. It was there I was to meet Marcia and fall in love, just with a little bit of a secret. I remember that night after the young white dyke had exposed me queer among the straight people. No one knew I was queer. And she said, I will tell you what she said. This white woman gets up in the middle of the audience and says to the San Antonio, very conventional audience, how was it and why, after I read a piece from my first play, Giving Up the Ghost, why was I associating lesbian identity with the pornographic mindset? Okay? I was talking about being queer, right? I was talking about shame. I was talking about things that we should be ashamed, we've learned to be ashamed of. And she called it pornographic. I had read from Ghost. So Corky's monologue, this little girl is talking about playing with boys, and she says stripping girls, because she was a little boy-identified girl, right? That's why I was called out. We didn't call it that then. She exposed me before them, hundreds of them, it seemed to me, and the whole room, see, that person got upset too. And the whole room,
I'm not here.
Yeah, really. Okay, she exposed me before hundreds of them, it seemed to me, and the whole room stirred with gossiped murmuring in the lobby. I would face them, all of them. Ay, sí, pero me abrazó. How could I be a lesbian and hug a man? Right? It was at that level. La raza, and some responded to me very differently, and I felt it after this, knowing this. Their caution, confusion, my foreignness. But Sandra had opened that door for me, and I came out into it. The after party, I drank with the deep weight of exposure. I drank my fear, my relief, and my terror of what lay ahead of me, to be out this way, naked, to continue as a writer with this nakedness, so queer, so much to hide, I felt, perhaps, and so it still remains. Okay, I want to skip something. Returning from that after party, I sleep in a small, I think it was a porch bed on the floor, in a side room in Sandra's home. Norma Alarcón is not in the same room with me, but she is within earshot. And my drunkenness rides up to my throat and out of my mouth onto a delicately embroidered starch cotton pillowcase that she always make sure you had, when you spent the night there. And Norma calls out, my querido Norma calls out and says, are you okay? Yes, I lie, as I secretly wipe up the spillage by my cheek. There was love there. This is what I had awakened to this morning from my sleep at 6 a.m. with the line of remembering, and with that line, I remember Sandra, and her courage comes to my mind. It changed my life. We were young and birthing ourselves into this man's world, this fiercely feminist Chicana sister. Marcia would join us, Norma would join us, a bunch of folks from Austin in the morning, and over breakfast, passing the tortilla, our hands would touch to my friend Marcia, and there would be fire. That's it. But anyway.
Okay, primero un comentario that I usually do. I can tell there are no children in the audience here, ¿verdad? No kiddos, but we're live streaming, so I will watch what I say. and use language that doesn't dishonor this institution and UCSB. Another thing I like to do is, ¿hay alguien aquí que no entiende inglés? Porque yo puedo hablar en español y traducir. Así que si hay alguien que no entiende el inglés, favor de levantar la manita, porfa. Ok, ¿cuántos? Ok, muy bien, qué bueno, porque yo soy bilingüe más o menos, aún con acento. Así que no te worries, ok? All right, muy bien. I'll make this talk bilingual, and I have translations of my work. Y voy a leer en inglés y en español, ¿ok? ¿Por qué no? All right. One of the things that I want to comment about that, when we met 40 years ago and I was the literature director, that you didn't know, was that I struggled every time I brought a woman. My bosses made me bring one of the old guard. So in order to get you, I had to bring Rolando Hinojosa. Every time I brought somebody, I had to bring who they picked. So they had chosen me, but they didn't give me the power. Estoy hablando que cuando nos conocimos 40 años atrás, cuando yo fui directora del programa de literatura en un centro en San Antonio, Texas, yo creo que me escogieron para que se parecía el centro un poco feminista, ¿no? Para darle una chambita a una jovencita, pero no me dieron el poder. Así que cuando invitaba a una mujer, tenía que también invitar a uno de sus amigos. Y eso me dio como casi ganas de vomitar, porque me dio un coraje. Diario golpeaba the little paper dispenser, no sé cómo decir paper dispenser en español, golpeaba donde salían los servitoallas en el baño del puro coraje. Pero yo dije, no me voy a vencer. No, porque yo sé que me quieren correr, así que me aguanto un año y ya después de un año me largo. Eso fue I said, I'm not quitting, even though they're driving me and to hit the paper dispenser in the bathroom, close to tears every day. I am not quitting. And the reason why Norma Alarcón was there was because I lived in a little garage apartment with no doors, you know, and so we all slept on the floor on futons and stuff. And she was there because I needed community. I needed help. I was having a nervous breakdown. La verdad que fue una crisis ese primer año y te invité, pero también invité a nuestra compañera y líder, Norma Alarcón, doctora Norma Alarcón, que nos publicó cuando nadie nos conocía. Y Norma estaba ahí como durmiendo en un futón en el piso, igual que nosotras, porque yo necesitaba apoyo, comunidad. Y eso es solo lo que quiero añadir para darle un poquito de contexto de lo que ella dijo, de qué difícil fue como una mujer queer de hacer una presentación. Estamos hablando en 1984 en San Antonio, Texas. Y qué fuerte fue para ella, pero también yo sufrí también. After you laughed, I got the beating. So sure. Yo también sufrí.
Sí, seguro que sí.
Bueno, ya, pero eso ya pasó.
Pero no, es lo que quería decir, es que es cuestión de una persona que tiene que enfrentar cuestiones para ser vergonzada, ¿no? Y entonces, cuando mujer sin vergüenza, pues
Mi título es Mujer sin vergüenza, no
no sin vergüenza. No. Es otra cosa.
Hay una diferencia, there's a difference. There's a difference.
Yes. Pero lo que me interesa is your journey to arrive at a place when one can say, like this morning, the reason why I did this, I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to read this. And the minute I tell myself I'm not going to read something, I will read it.
Porque te dio vergüenza, right?
Sí. No, entonces,
pero de eso debemos de transformar la vergüenza a la verdad, a luz, y se hace eso con arte.
Sí.
De eso sirve el arte, ¿no? Por eso necesitamos canciones, el baile, la pintura, para transformar lo negativo que nos golpea, que tenemos atado en el corazón, transformarlo a luz. That's what art's all about, you know, getting to the truth and getting rid of all that dark shadows that we hold in our lives. ¿No?
See, and that's what I think, too, the thing that was the most compelling to me. I also finished reading Caramelo, right? And so the relationship between those two things is phenomenal. And that's what I kind of wanted to start out with, because in Caramelo, we go through a whole history. I'm not good at going Spanish and English like that. Toda la historia, I got that much work. But you give all this Mexican history, but at the same time, you reveal things to me. And this is lo que me tocó. Cosas que yo tengo mucha vergüenza de la raza a veces por el racismo que tenemos. La historia de colonialismo que hemos aceptado. Cuestiones así. Y tú estás mencionando, in the stories of your familia, you talk about things very dangerous, very, very dangerous. Like, you know, the bad the grandmother, right?
Estamos hablando de esta novela, Caramelo, que me costó 10 años. Era como
con mucha razón cuesta tanto tiempo.
voluntarily going to jail, you know, for 10 years. It's really a lot of work. Y está traducido al español, me gustaría compartirlo, pero no tengo mi copia de español. Otherwise, I would read a trocito. You know, but anyway, sígale.
But only the thing, and I want you to. What?
Is it?
The earring is hitting.
Oh, mira, I'll take the earring.
Mira, no, I can just put this right here like this.
I'm Latina, I have to wear earrings.
There you go. I put it in the middle. And
Okay,
Oh, you're only half naked, right?
No,
You're like, yes, you have one, yes.
Ándale.
So it's just, so what I was really thinking about after when I decided on when I went through all of Caramelo, and I also, of course, read the new book of poetry, the first book of poetry in, 28 years? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not the first book in 28 years. It's my third book of poetry, but it's a compilation of 28 years.
Oh, okay, got it.
Poems.
That's not what the bio says, by the way. It's like, anyway.
My mic is still giving lata? Yeah. ¿Todavía? There's a difference. No me digas. ¿Ahí está bien?
You would have to hold it. I don't know. Okay. So this is what I wanted to talk, because in the novel, and I recommend the novel highly, I recommend this book, the new, you know, the Woman Without Shame, right? I recommend both of these books. And if you never read anything else and you read the two of them, you would have a great, great picture of the mind and the gift of her writing, her ability to operate imágenes. Yo puedo decir un poquito de eso, que ella tiene un ritmo, una manera de expresarse, que cada línea es como es una imagen, ¿no? Entonces es pura belleza, pero al mismo tiempo te pega, ¿no? Porque está mencionando cosas bien, que requieren mucho riesgo de hacerlo, ¿no? Entonces, cuando ella habla de nuestras familias y una persona que habla de la gente indígena en una manera muy mala, en maneras que dice que es racismo, ¿no? Pero en este libro ella puede admitir que sí, así es. Y entonces lo que quiero decir es que a veces es es que yo me sentí mejor ver que alguien está hablando la verdad. Porque es la verdad. There are lots of nodding heads here. That racism is really evident in our families. And that racism is typically for Mexicanos connected to gente indígena. Es los pueblos originarios. Y entonces es que, but she doesn't, in the book, I just want to say that, and I'm going to let you do all the talking after this part. So in the book, like, she doesn't say, oh, that's a terrible thing. She lets the characters be who they are. And that's why it works. There's no, and you can get the essays, it'll tell you, give you your opinions, but she lets the character do it, and it is really uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable. And the other thing she does masterfully in Caramelo is she also gives you, there are footnotes as long as chapters, you know. Her chapters are short, though, so they're like 3 or 4 pages, right? 50-something, I don't know how many chapters you have in that book. But anyway, so the thing is that in each of those, you will get, you find out about the Mexican Revolution, you find about independencia, you find about everything in this totally accessible way. So those of you who are lacking your Mexicano history, lee el libro, no? It's very good. So I just want to start with that because those are the things I'm saying as another writer, and I had said this the other night. When I teach my students literature, I ask them to try to read it like a writer. And you watch what they're doing. You're watching how they put it together. And so for me, it's been a great pleasure just to be involved in Sandra's work during this time, one writer to another. And I began with that beginning to also tell you this is not the given. You know, it's never been the given. When we were starting to write in the late 70s, it was like, we were like the bad news coming down the road, right? So, what would you like to do, Sandra?
¿Sabes? ¿Hay alguien que me puede prestar mi libro Mujer sin Vergüenza? Does somebody have it? Porque no traje y no sabía que el público necesitaba. No, ¿tú lo tienes en español? Yo lo tengo en inglés.
No.
¿En español? No. ¿Quién lo tiene en
Pero
español?
tienes algunos poemas en español.
Ay, no, pero quiero saber. Si no, voy a leer otras cosas. Pero escribí 2 en español. Me gustaría tener la versión de Liliana Valenzuela, mi traductora, hermana poeta. ¿Nadie lo tiene? What's the matter with you? Ok, mira, entonces voy a leer lo que yo escribí. ¿Mandé? ¿Por qué no? ¿Ya se vendió? Well, who's got it then? Somebody here. You're not leaving now.
Nobody in this room
alguien
got
lo
it.
tiene. No vamos a salir. Ok, entonces leo lo que tengo en español porque no me gusta si hacemos un programa y algunos no entienden. We have to remember that, be bilingual as much as we can. Ok, bueno, ya saben que mi español es un español de hija y hablo el español con acento, pero es que nací en Chicago de padres mexicanos. El lado de mi padre somos del DF, el lado de mi madre somos de Guanajuato, donde vivo ahora. So I'm a product of my education. I speak a daughter's Spanish with an accent, and everybody knows that I'm not from Guanajuato, where I live, when I open my mouth. So my mother's people are people that fled the Mexican Revolution 100 years ago. I live 100 kilometers from land they worked that wasn't theirs. Mis abuelos trabajaban tierra que no era de ellos, eran analfabetos, huyeron durante la revolución. Yo vivo 100 kilómetros de ese lugar. Y ninguno de ellos pudieron regresar. 100 años después, yo decidí regresar. So, ahora empiezo, como soy poeta, y escucho a todo el mundo y se me pega todo, empecé a escribir en español. Así que hay algunos que me salieron en español, pero la verdad es que mi traductora, Liliana Valenzuela, tuvo que corregirlo porque pues mi español es muy pocha. Okay, so Liliana Valenzuela corrected these. I wrote this poem in Spanish. And I'm going to just sit down so I don't mess up the mic, okay? I don't usually do that, but if you don't mind. I'll read it in the language I wrote it, and then I'll read the translation in English. Quiero ser maguey en mi próxima vida. Dar cara al sol todo el día. Reventar hijos al aire como una piñata. Ahorrar agua. Brotar una flor con fleco, estirándose al cielo, estirando al cielo. ¡Qué lujo! Quiero pertenecer a estas tierras que existían antes de que el mundo fuera redondo. Picar las nalgas de los que se acercan demasiado. Regalar aguamiel al que se atreve a chupar mi jugo. Y morir de esta comunión. Deshacerme como ceniza. Volver a vivir en la tierra violenta. Explotar de la huerta como paricutín. Volver a renacer. Morir para siempre ser. I want to be a maguey. Thank you. Me cuesta leerlo en español porque la verdad no es mi segundo idioma. Pero hice el try siquiera. Okay. I want to be a maguey in my next life. Face to the sun all day. Burst offspring into the air like a piñata. Store water. Bloom a tasseled flower, stretching itself to the sky, stretching to the sky. What luxury. I want to belong to these lands that existed before the world was round. Pinch the asses of those who come too close to me. Give aguamiel to the one who dares suck my juice. And die from this communion. Dissolve like ash. Return to live on earth. Violent. Detonate from a field like Paricutin. Return to be reborn. Die to eternally be. Yo creo que escribí ese poema porque en México es buen lugar para morir, ¿no creen? Deben tener una playera, good place to die, ¿no? I think it would sell, ¿sí? ¿Y por qué? Porque allá no se olviden de sus difuntos y los difuntos no se olviden de ustedes. And that's a beautiful thing about Mexico. It's a good place to die because, you know, we don't forget our dead and our dead don't forget us. That, I think, why the spirits, because the truth, the spirits led me south. And I feel it's like I'm preparing for my transformation. Not too soon, I hope. But para transformarme en mi próxima vida, y ojalá que no sea muy pronto, pero ahora me están saliendo poemas y tengo algunas nuevas que no se han publicado, que no están en este libro, que me gustaría compartir con ustedes si me dan chancita. ¿Ok? ¿Les gustaron? Qué bueno. Pues, qué bueno. Porque más que nada, quiero que se inspiren a ustedes a escribir poesía. Es muy fácil, no cuesta nada. Necesitas un lápiz, un papelito y ya. No es como necesitas pinturas y un atelier. No, hombre, damos un papelito y un lápiz y ya. And poetry is so cheap and affordable. Everybody can do it. Everybody should do it because you don't want to hold all of these things in your heart and go to sleep and you can't sleep and perturbado. It's good to transform them, especially things you wish you could forget. Especialmente las cosas que deseas olvidar, hay que transformarlo a la poesía. Y si no saben cómo leer poesía, pues échale un vistazo a la biblioteca, hay muchos libros ahí. A mí me encanta mucho García Lorca. ¡Ay, qué trabajo me cuesta! Quererte como te quiero. Por tu amor me duele el aire, el corazón y mi sombrero. ¿Quién me compraría de mí esta tristeza de hilo blanco para hacer pañuelos? Ay, qué trabajo me cuesta quererte como te quiero. Federico García Lorca. Qué bonito, ¿verdad? Qué bonito. Y además, if you memorize one or two, you'll be a big hit at parties. Pero, anyway, además quiero inspirarles para que sean, que poesía como pan es para todo el mundo. Y no quiero quedar aquí que decir, bueno, mira qué chula estos poemas. No, ustedes también que se inspiran a leer las poetas, que les inspiran correr para su pluma. I love reading poets who inspire me to go get my pen. That's the kind of writer I want to read. Well, anyway, pues seguimos la plática. Shall we keep talking?
Sí,
Because
seguro que sí, pero yo tengo... Sí, está bien, está bien. Es que estaba hablando, yo que quería saber más, aquí escribes, I live al revés, upside down, always have. Who called me here, mini Mexico? Spirits, maybe, a century later, to die at home for them, since they couldn't.
No, es la verdad. I did have spirits.
Can you just translate that little moment?
La
Because
verdad,
that's an
no.
I'm going to tell you what to do. Will you translate that moment?
Es una estrofa de un poema que escribí que se llama Tienda de Jarcería. Es la verdad que los difuntos, mis antepasados, me llamaron a regresar a México. It's true that spirits called me back. I went to San Miguel in 2011 for a festival de libros. And I liked it so much, I went back. And when I was there the second time, I woke up in the middle of the night, wide awake, in the dark. I don't do that. And I said, why am I awake? And I put the light on, and I thought, maybe because San Miguel is sitting on a big crystal, maybe I should meditate. So before I could meditate, a voice came in my head. I don't know if that happens to you, but it happens to me a lot. A voice came in my head, and it said, you are not your house. It didn't say it in English. It didn't say it in Spanish. It said it mentally. And it just came from I don't know where. So maybe it was the ancestors or los angelitos, or yo no sé. But it said, you are not your house. And at that time, I was very involved with 2 foundations. I've been very lucky in my life. I try to share the wealth and success I have to promote other writers, because there are lots of writers that are as good or better than me, and so I want to support it, all the writers I can. And that wake-up call, however, was telling me, stop fooling around doing all the arts administration and trying to fix your house for 7 generations, because I was thinking at that time of leaving my house to the city of San Antonio, so it could be an artist center. And that was like a wake up. And I realized I need to get back to my writing, and I need to move from Texas. And that was the wake-up call. Así que esto me pasó, la verdad, en 2011, cuando estuve en San Miguel de Allende por segunda vez. Me despertaron las ánimas como a las, bueno, en la oscuridad, ni siquiera era tiempo de amanecer, era oscuro afuera. Y escuché, prendí la luz y escuché una voz, ni en inglés ni en español, que me dijo, tú no eres tu casa. Y yo en ese entonces estuve muy involucrada con 2 fundaciones, quería compartir mi éxito con otros escritores que son tan buenos como yo o mejor, y en ese momento entendí que tenía que dejar eso y regresar a mi escritura, y ya podría dejar mi vida en Texas, donde estuve preparando heredar mi casa a la ciudad de San Antonio como refugio para escritores, y entendí muy bien que ya era tiempo despedirme de Texas y quizás ir a México y acabar mi próximo libro allí. Y así lo hice. Me sentí como Forrest Gump. You know, when I came back, I said, oh, I'm going to Mexico. What? Yeah, I'm going to Mexico. And then they said, well, the voice didn't say go to Mexico. I said, oh, that's true. It didn't say go to Mexico. But I understand that I'm supposed to leave Texas and leave all this foundation and concentrate on my writing. So I've been there 11 years. And I don't know why I'm there, but I have friends that speak English, I have friends who speak Spanish, I have friends who speak both, and it's been very rich for my writing. So until I get another voice that says, ya vámonos, I'm going to stay there.
Pero Sandra también es el lado de tu mamá,
Sí.
viene de esta área, ¿no?
Sí,
Entonces tienes raíces.
mis antepasados, en el lado maternal, son de allí, de Guanajuato, de un ranchito. Ni siquiera una ranchería cerca del aeropuerto de León. So they're from there, but I don't know anybody there because like my mother's family all fled, and so there's really no one I know. But I went to that town twice to check it out, and it looks like as bad, if not worse than before the revolution. It's really a poor town. And I think about my life, if my grandparents had stayed, let's just say I'd been born from a different father and grown up in Mexico, I would not be writing books. I would be tejiendo servilletas. I'd be making, eres mi amor, los little toallitas. That would be my library if I had stayed in Mexico. Because I see that las mujeres del campo es muy difícil para ellas conseguir una educación. Para los jóvenes, varones también. Así que si tú no vives en la capital, pues ni modo, ¿no? Y es muy difícil. Si tú naces pobre, mueres pobre. Sí. Así que es muy difícil. Y doy gracias a la valentía de mis abuelos que vinieron primero a Texas y luego a Arizona y Kansas hasta llegar a Chicago, donde nació mi madre. Mi madre se llamaba Elvira, igual que el tuyo.
Sí. Qué curioso,
Creo
¿no?
que fue de moda en esos
Ajá.
entonces.
Sí, tienes razón.
Yeah.
Sí.
Yeah. I think so. Bueno, can I read another poem? But this is one I want to read because it's new, and I could only read it to a bilingual audience. My translator cannot translate this poem. It's unpublished, and lo quiero compartir con ustedes porque no se puede traducir, así que ni modo, and no se ha publicado. Se llama I Have No Word in English for apachurrado. Hat run over by a truck, heart run over by unrequited love. Estrenar, to show off what's new gloriously. Engentada, people overdose malaise. A estas alturas, superb vista with age. Encabronada, encabronado, a volatile, combustible rage. Susto, fear that spooks the soul away. Ni modo, wise acceptance of what fate doles. Aguante, miraculous Mexican power to endure conquest, tragedy, políticos.
That's good. That's good.
Ánimo, a joyous zap of fire. Divina providencia, destiny, with choices and spiritual interventions. Nahual, animal twin, assigned at birth. Amphibio, person with the gift of global perspective due to living between borders. Alebrije, amphibio with wings from geographical travel. Ombligo, buried umbilical, center of the universe. Toloache, love concoction made with moonflower and menstrual blood. Tocaya, tocayo, name double, automatic friend. Amiga hermana, heart sister, closer than kin. Un pobre infeliz, the walking wounded, maimed by landmines of life. Un inocente, mind askew since birth, blameless. Chupa cabron, chupa cabrona, energy vampire disguised in human form. Sensontle, tranquility transmitter in bird or human form. Friolento, friolenta, tropical blood, vulnerable to chills. Chipil, melancholia due to an unborn sibling en route. Desamor, heart bleeding like choconosle fruit. Choconosle. Must I explain everything for you?
That's great.
Yeah, I think we can't translate that one.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah, you know, I live in Mexico now, so there's a lot of words que no se pueden traducir, no? Como engentar. So I have to just tell people, I'm like, people overdose. I'm on people overdose. I got to be by myself. So there's a lot of things. Y muchas cosas también, no solamente palabras, sino costumbres, ¿no? Costumbres, como le estuve platicando anoche. Y cuando estás en una fiesta y eres mexicano, te despides, pero no te vas.
Sí.
Y los gringos se van y no se despiden. O sea, hay cosas así. Y ahora también entendí que cuando los licenciados hacen una cita contigo, cuidado, porque no respetan tu vida, tu horario. Tú puedes llegar, ay, es que se fue a Celaya hoy. ¿Cómo? Pues, ¿por qué no me llamó? Ni modo. lots of culture clashes and things I'm learning from being in the middle. But I think one of the good things about being an amphibian is that you can work with both sides, you know, you can work. Es muy especial ser anfibio porque puedes entender las dos comunidades, puedes servir como puente, quizás no quieres ser un puente, pero para mí en estos tiempos de guerra es necesario ser puente. ¿Cómo vamos a combatir guerra o decir I'm pissed off about this war if you're fighting with other people, right? If you want peace in Gaza and peace in the Ukraine, peace begins with you and all the people around you and the people in your department and your enemy. I wrote a letter to my enemy today. Yes, I have an enemy. And, yes, tengo una amiga. Y lo escribí hoy porque me molesta que digo que nosotros tenemos que ser la paz para tener paz en el mundo. No con un cartel o mandando un send. No. You want peace? You have to be peace in everything you say and think and put on social media. And you don't pick a side because that's adding lighter fuel, you know, if you pick a side. It's the difference. It's not being neutral. It's not adding to the fire. And I learned that from Thich Nhat Hanh. And can I read something from Thich Nhat Hanh? Because I think our leaders are unevolved. That's the kindest thing I can say. Thich Nhat Hanh me cambió la vida. Y este libro se llama, en español, creo que es Ser la Paz. En inglés es Being Peace y es fuertísimo. Este libro me cambió la vida. Y les voy a compartir, y lo siento, no lo tengo en español, pero ustedes lo pueden googlear. Thich Nhat Hanh fue un budista, monje, durante la guerra de Vietnam. Este hombre sufrió de los dos lados, porque como él como budista ayudaba a los heridos del norte y del sur, y cada gobierno lo echaron fuera del país, así que tuvo que vivir exiliado en Francia, donde él solito empezó una nueva forma del budismo. El budismo no es religión, ¿eh? No vayan a decir, she's preaching here. No, Buddhism isn't a religion, but I think it's very important what he says in this book that's relevant to what's happening right now. So you please indulge me. During the war in Vietnam, we young Buddhists organized ourselves to help victims of the war rebuild villages that had been destroyed by the bombs. Many of us died during service, not only because of the bombs and the bullets, but because of the people who suspected us of being on the other side. We were able to understand the suffering of both sides, the communists and the anti-communists. We tried to be open to both, to understand this side and to understand that side, to be one with them. That is why we did not take a side, even though the whole world took sides. We tried to tell people our perception of the situation, that we wanted to stop the fighting, but the bombs were so loud. The situation of the world is still like this. People identify completely with one side, one ideology. To understand the suffering and the fear of a citizen of another country, we have to become one with him. To do so is dangerous. We will be suspected by both sides. But if we don't do it, if we align ourselves with one side or the other, we will lose our chance to work for peace. Reconciliation is to understand both sides, to go to one side and describe the suffering being endured by the other side, and then to go to the other side and describe the suffering being endured by the first side. Doing only that will be a great help for peace. And when I was working at the Guadalupe, I had an enemy who would sabotage the jobs that I did. I don't know if you knew him. And when I left, you know, I had to eat a lot of crow on that job, and I couldn't do anything about him. He had applied for my job. I got the job, and he made my life very difficult. He was one of the people I had to hire, really hard. And at that time, House on Manga Street came out, but it was a small press, and the male writers and my colleagues dismissed it and said this isn't a political book. And
Talk about eating crow now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't care because I didn't like their writing, so it didn't matter to me. Their opinion didn't matter. But I left that job. And later on, I was teaching at the University of Albuquerque. And I remember that the librarians in El Paso knew I was next door. You know, Texas, that's next door. And they invited me to come and give a talk. This was before Woman Hollering Creek came out. Así que nadie me conocía todavía de nivel nacional. Me invitaron las bibliotecarias del Paso y tuve que manejar 4 horas de Albuquerque hasta El Paso porque me caen muy bien. Librarians have made me, and I wanted to do something nice for them. And they said, oh, we have a special treat for you. We have invited our poet laureate. And it was my enemy. And it was my enemy. And they got this big auditorium that would seat 500 people, and only 12 people were there, and 11 of them were librarians. And one was my enemy. And he was sitting right there. He's here to sabotage me. I know it. So I said, oh, I'm not going to look at him. That was kind of hard because it's only 12 people. And so I'm reading, and then little noises are coming out of him. And I'm like, oh, he's trying to get me distracted. No, I'm going to keep reading. I was reading Bien Pretty from Woman Howling Creek. And it's a funny story about San Antonio. I'm reading, and little gurgling sounds are still coming out of him. Finally, I figured out he was laughing. He was laughing at the right places. And meanwhile, I'm reading and thinking, oh no, now I have to go shake his hand afterwards. I'm going to have little crackers and some wine. And I started looking for a weapon. I said, okay, if he comes close to me, I can get this bottle, and I could break it over his head. Just let him try something. I was ready. I was waiting. The bottle was there, and the librarians are shaking my hand. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see he's coming, because he's big as a mountain. He's coming close to me, and he's coming close. I said, okay, you just try anything. Now, I don't represent the center, so you just try something with me. And he did the one thing that I didn't expect. He put his hand out, and he said, that was a great story. Thank you. And I remember I put a little cat paw out there. And I drove 4 hours back thinking of my enemy that he had done. And I came to class, and I said, okay, we've been trying to figure out what we could do. The Gulf War was going on, and we thought, what is our job as poets, as truth tellers during a time of war? I said, okay, my enemy taught me what we have to do. It's what Thich Nhat Hanh says we have to do. We have to make peace with everybody in this room, with everybody in our family, with the poet across town we don't like, with all our personal family people that we're fighting with. That's how you make peace. And you want peace, you have to be peace. And I thank Ricardo Sanchez, the poet who taught me that. Can I read another poem in Spanish? ¿Sí, porfa? Ok, lo voy a leer primero en español y luego en inglés, pero yo lo escribí en inglés. Ok, and it's, un gordito me dice, hermosa. Aunque no se da cuenta de que cumplo 68 el próximo martes. Halagada a estas alturas por lo que de joven me hubiera enfurecido. Él venía de trabajo a casa polvoriento como un bolío. Albañil, panadero, carpintero. La carne meneándose de bajada, las botas apoyando el empedrado, caminando cuesta abajo mientras yo iba cuesta arriba a mi calle. Aguantó la respiración hasta pasar rozando. Hermosa. Floreció de su lengua. Algunos días con lentes oscuros y joyería, el pelo suelto como la Cher. Me siento lista para mi vuelta al escenario. Un gordito calls me hermosa, even though he doesn't realize I turn 68 next Tuesday. Charmed at these heights by what would have enraged me as a girl. He was coming home from work, dusty as a bolillo. Mason, baker, carpenter, flesh jiggling on the descent, boots pounding cobblestones, making his way downhill as I climbed up my street. Hermosa bloomed from his tongue. Some days, with dark glasses and jewelry, my hair down like Cher, I feel ready for my comeback tour.
Sí, está bien.
Ok, porque estos son nuevos y quiero estrenarlos. Ok, quiero estrenar. A ver si lo tengo en español. Ok, ustedes me tienen que ayudar con porque tienen como un coro y ustedes me tienen que ayudar. Pero a ver si lo encuentro en español. Si no, solamente lo leo en inglés, ni modo. Ok, a ver. Se llama, yo creo que solamente lo tengo en inglés, pero voy a esculcar aquí. Sí, solo en inglés. Esto lo acabo de escribir el año pasado, and I need your help. It has a coro that says, May la Virgen watch over you. I do not want to impose my spirituality. I'm a Buddha Lupista, but you could replace the Virgen with, Yahweh or Lord of Near and Far or my higher self, whatever you believe in, okay? And so I'm going to say, May la Virgen watch over you, and you're going to say, now and always. So let's practice. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Excellent, you got the job. Blessed be the man with the trumpet and drum playing for coins on this morning, a tune so tragic it deserves a movie with subtitles. Pausing to tap with his stick, doors that won't open. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed be the woman whose eyes are twin wells, who sells tacos on the Mesio 10, her cart the one with the fewest customers, whose son, she tells me, is being operated on while she fries meat. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed be the masons working under the noonday sun, elders creased and burnt beneath boyish baseball caps, skin dusted with a powder of itch, shoulders adorned with epaulets of bricks. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed be the father tottering with toddlers writing on each of his work boots, a man who takes time to laugh with his children. Bendiciones. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed be the 4 construction workers eating lunch in the middle of Calle Canal on an overturned wheelbarrow. One improvising a megaphone with a traffic cone, belting out for all downtown to hear. No tengo trono ni reina, ni nadie que me comprenda, pero sigo siendo el rey. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed be the boy and girl zooming by on a motorbike, wind on their youthful faces, joyously leaning into el porvenir. May la Virgen watch over you.
Now and always.
Blessed am I today, riding home in time to catch a mob of morning glories, mauves and pinks bobbing, waving as I whoosh past. May la Virgen watch over me, now and always. Thank you. I have to make a commercial. This is my new old book. It's the new edition of House on Mungo Street. It's out now, and it's got a new introduction and a chronology, and a really nice new cover. And we just finished transforming it into an opera with Derek Bermel, so I hope to see it come to a town near you. We just handed it in when we're workshopping it at the Glimmer Glass Festival this year. And it's a book I normally would not want to mention, but because of this new work I've been doing on it, I'm very excited moving into your terrain, theater.
Felicidades.
I'm very inspired by work you and Celia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just want
Good.
to make the commercial.
It's great. Great.
Yeah.
So you have returned to Mexico, right? Okay. And it's been how many years did you say?
11.
Okay. So I'm curious about that. And that was one of the reasons, too, that I had mentioned to our shared agent why I wanted to talk with you. Because of the experience of being MeXicana, right? MeXicana, and you're returning. It is a return for you in sorts, even though you were born here, ¿no? Ella nació aquí, en los Estados Unidos. Entonces, tiene varios poemas que hablan de esta tensión, ¿no?
Sí.
Y también la celebración de estar ahí, pero también una tensión, there's a lot of tension.
Ni soy señora ni señorita.
Eso es, ¿sí? Señor.
Me dicen, lo que a mí me gusta es cuando me dicen ceñito. Es muy dulce, ¿no? O lo más lindo es cuando llegas al aeropuerto y llegan los con los diablitos y te dicen, madrecita, ¿necesitas ayuda? Qué lindo, ¿verdad? Madrecita. Like you graduate to like the Virgen de Guadalupe. Nobody offers that when you come to the United States. No, you gotta put $7 and get that card. Hombre.
It's true.
And the first thing you notice when you get off the plane, if you go on a plane, the people that are with the wheelchairs in Mexico, they look you in the eye and they say, buenas tardes, bienvenidos. You know, that human thing. So beautiful. I try to make eye contact when I come to the U.S. with people on the little ramp. Nombre, they're looking at their phone and, you know.
So
And
what
even
poem
like on
that-
the street. Oh, I went to the mission today. I went to the mission laundry. I learned everything.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned that. There was a maestra there that was teaching me, like, which machine do you use? What? You didn't look inside the washer first? That's why you got all that lint on your clothes? And I didn't know anything, but I got to write a poem about it, so maybe I won't tell you about it. I'll write it tomorrow. Visiting the mission.
Yeah, the Mission Laundry. I think Celia frequents there too, don't you? Well, partly I think there's two poems that struck me, but there's this one poem that really, you talk a lot about sort of, for example, in El Hombre, and I'm just going to read this little quote.
Sí, lástima that
And
I
then-
don't have it in Spanish. That's a good poem.
Sí. Y un hombre tells me, right? You don't even have to learn Spanish to live here. Amado, the San Miguel Amado, the San Miguel Realtor. You can train your staff to do what you need, and you don't have to pay them much either, right? And lo que me gusta es que es como una contradicción, ¿no? En un sentido,
Sí,
para estar en el cuerpo que tú tienes y tiene raíces en los Estados Unidos, al mismo tiempo estás como en talk about bridge, or talk about, quiero hablar de esta
Algo muy
contradicción.
feo que me ha pasado en México que les tengo que compartir, something really ugly that the tourists don't get, or the expats that live there, that happens to me as a Mexicana face, maybe not the Mexicana accent. That is like, sometimes I'll go to like, this has happened to me, I'm not making this up, but I'll go to like a restaurant and they'll look at me, and because I don't look like a tourist, because maybe I'm dressed in my stretchy sports clothes, and they'll say there's no table, and the whole place is empty. And like, you know, that has happened sometimes more than once, like when I've been with some of my employees that are their children, I took them to dinner somewhere for graduation celebration, and we couldn't get a reservation. We showed up, and they said, oh, there's no tables.
Can you say something that it's particular also to San Miguel de Allende, right? Because can you say something about that there is a lot of expats there? Not everybody
there's
knows
a lot
that.
of expats, but they don't get that treatment.
No, I meant that. That's what I'm saying, is that it's a, it's a very-
Hay gente que vienen de los Estados Unidos en Canadá que tienen segunda casas allí. And, you know, the weird thing is to not look like an expat and to be there and then have your own people not serve you a table or not treat you well, because there's a classism in Mexico.
Sí.
You know, and if you look like you work cleaning someone's house, they don't want to give you a table. And, you know, where do you go with that? It's been very disturbing. very disturbing, and the only thing I can do about it is write about it, put it in a book, but nobody that matters in Mexico reads it because they don't
Yes.
read my work. Right?
So there's one poem that I would like you to read. That's my request.
Okay.
And it's T-E-A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's
Kind of along this
That's kind
this
of hard,
theme.
pero okay.
It's hard, you
Les tengo que explicar que en México vivo al lado de un muro donde dos jóvenes les gusta, hay como un triángulo enfrente de mi casa, y los jóvenes les gustan besarse ahí, escondidas, you know. You have to go somewhere away from your mother to get kissed and kiss someone you know in Mexico. So they go to this little parking space that's shaped like a triangle in front of my door. It's my neighbor's parking space because my house is on a diagonal. And some jovencito wanted for Valentine's Day, because he put te, a, and then the police came, so he didn't finish it. And the wall had te, a. Y de eso viene la poema, okay? And yeah, and you know how they tell you in high school you're going to need algebra and geometry? That's a lie. I have never needed it, and the only time I've used it is in this poem. Okay. Te-a. I wish I had it in Spanish, but you can get it in the library. Pueden buscar la versión en español en la biblioteca. Además pídenlo Mujer sin vergüenza, no Mujer sin vergüenza. A boy and a girl embrace, kiss within the triangle of my parking space, a geometric equation proving the whole greater than the sum of the parts. Beyond the eye of church traffic and mothers, here in the privacy of a callejon that rolls soundlessly downhill, dissolves into the wall of the chapel of San Juan de Dios, patron of booksellers, alcoholics, and the sick, sufferers all. Even in a town named for an armed angel, love finds a route. A boy and a girl kiss. 7 mute organ cacti and a nicho de Guadalupe as witnesses. To prove love is ever expanding in space and time, the boy drafts a Valentine on the parking triangle's hypotenuse. My neighbor's stone wall. Te, sprayed red in block letters. Then across town, as narcos duly collect protection rent from tortilla vendors, even as townsfolk disappear like wallets plucked from Costco customers' pockets, and lifetime savings are obediently stashed at bus stop trash bins per phone extortionist instruction. While gentle twilight descends, releasing soundless as moths, serial rapists, the authorities move swiftly when children violate property owned by foreigners. Love, after all, is a dangerous conflagration, an axiom even Euclid would conclude. The boy is let go with a few slaps for his proper education. The girl wisely escaped at the first sight of uniforms and guns. And so, as it was before and ever will be, the neighbor's wall is power hosed to its former serenity, except for a faint pink scar. A song crowned with humility and thorns, extending into infinity, stigmata of the forlorn.
So should we do some
Sí,
Q&A?
ahora las preguntas, por
Yeah.
favor.
So people can, if they have a question, I think they'd like you to go to the mics, if that's possible. We have 2 mics. We have a mic there and a mic
Oh,
here.
aquí están. Aquí están.
Don't be shy.
Yeah,
Yes.
aquí
And if you know you're going to have one, go ahead and get over, line up a little bit. Just
Thank you for asking a question.
Hola, hola.
Hola.
Me parece muy interesante su historia y ahora me gustaría que nos diera un punto de vista de lo que piensa de la gentrificación y cómo está afectando al pueblo mexicano actualmente.
¿Cómo qué?
La gentrificación y cómo está afectando al pueblo mexicano actualmente. Sí, usted, por favor.
¿Dices en dónde vivo yo?
en general en México. ¿Qué opina de la
Yo no soy
gentrificación?
experta de México, soy muy ignorante de México en total, solamente sé lo que yo conozco y no puedo presumir.
Sí, pero no sé si nos compartir algún punto de vista o algo.
Pues no sé si me atrevo a hablar para todo México, solo puedo hablar de lo que yo conozco. And his question is about, I'm not real sure what the question is, but and maybe somebody can translate it for me? Identification?
Gentrification.
Oh, gentrification. Ay, gracias. Es que acuérdate que mi primer idioma no es español. Gracias. The gentrification, pues, I'm part of that gentrification. You know, I came in and bought a house too. Yo también soy parte de esa ola que llegó a San Miguel y compré una casita de huéspedes porque no puedo comprar las casonas, pero yo también soy parte y culpable. Así que hay un poco de, you know, a little bit of guilt, and I write about that too. Escribo de eso también, and I own up to it because it's the truth. But I try to level it off, and intento de buscar una solución. Cuando yo compré mi casa, le dije a mis empleados, yo les voy a comprar su casa también. Y lo hice. Porque yo no puedo cambiar el mundo, pero siquiera de una familia. Y eso es lo que logré hacer. Y logramos hacerlo. Y así se hace el cambio. No, maybe one family at a time.
Gracias por su respuesta.
¿Hay otra pregunta?
Sí.
Hi. I can also interpret or say the question in Spanish, but first of all, thank you so much for coming and sharing some of your time with us. So, yeah, my question is pertaining to, I love the way you interpret the poems in both Spanish and English, and I love how there's very different energies when you do it, and how it's different based on whether it's Spanish and English, and how your body language itself changes. And I wanted to know how you approach each interpretation. So, muchas gracias por apartar un poco de tu tiempo hoy, a venir a hablar con nosotros. Mi pregunta es sobre cómo usted interpreta sus poemas en inglés, en español, y porque encuentro que usa lenguaje de su cuerpo muy diferente. Un poco es como la vida de ese lenguaje fluye por su cuerpo en una manera muy diferente en inglés en términos de eso y encontré el español. Y quería saber cómo maneja ese cambio, cómo entra a ese mundo.
Primero, muchas gracias por traducir la pregunta. Pero sabes que algunas de las poemas que compartí esta noche me salieron en español. El maguey me salió en español. Some of the poems I read tonight came out in Spanish, and I wrote the translation. And it says that in the book when I did that, when it was originally written in Spanish. And some of the newer ones, I don't know them that well. And I'm reading Liliana's translation. They're new, and I don't know the text, so that's why I stumble. I can't be as free because I didn't think of it myself, and there's a lot of words that are not part of my daily vocabulary. Every day in Mexico, I ask cómo se dice, you know, every day. And because I'm still learning. I'm learning an adult Spanish as opposed to the Spanish I used as a kid. And so I don't feel 100% comfortable reading the poems in Spanish because I haven't practiced them enough. And I feel better when I'm performing the ones I wrote in Spanish, que me salieron de mi cabeza en español, ¿no? Pero intento para honrar los que no entienden inglés. I try. If there's one person in the audience who doesn't speak English, I'm going to try to at least read something for that person. So the hesitation is there because I didn't write it in Spanish. That's Liliana Valenzuela's mastery, and she's a wonderful poet, and I wish one day you meet her because she's great. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. No sé si entendieron la respuesta.
I have a question regarding your childhood, your upbringing. I've seen a few interviews where you've mentioned that you were your father's favorite child. And I also know that you were the only girl in the family and surrounded by brothers. And so my question is, how did how was that preference manifested between your father and you? And how, if at all, did it impact the relationship between you and your mother? And so that was my question. Mi pregunta es que he visto varias entrevistas donde usted ha mencionado que usted era la preferida, ¿no? La hija preferida de su padre. Y mi pregunta es, ¿cómo se manifiesta esa relación? Y si tuvo algún impacto con la relación entre usted y su mamá. Gracias.
Buena pregunta. My father made it very explicit that I was the one all my brothers should take care of, that I was very special. I was his favorite. Everybody knew it. And the thing is, I have a theory, and I have personally interviewed women who are doing outstanding work in their careers and asked them, were you your father's favorite? And they always giggle and say, yes. And people that are like out there in careers that you don't usually see women, I have taken a personal poll. And I think that women need like the absolute love of a father to strengthen them for the blows that life is going to give them. And that one advice I can give fathers who have daughters is like, love them unconditionally. Overindulge them, super baroque. That's what my father did, and it helped me a lot. I'm very grateful. My mom was not so happy about it because she didn't have an ideal relationship with my father. So there was a lot of bitterness when she got to be older. And, I'm sure it was uncomfortable for her. And I was not an easy daughter because I did what I wanted, and she conformed.
So I think we'll take 1 minute because I have a sense that class is leaving. So we'll take a couple of minutes, just a little, so.
Yeah.
And
Quiero
then,
traducir ahora en
go ahead,
la respuesta en español mientras no me ofendo si te tienen que ir, la pregunta fue, ya lo entendieron, y yo dije que fue muy claro cuando yo me creí que fui la hija, la favorita de mi papá, y creo que eso me ayudó a aguantar los golpes de la vida, y yo tengo esa teoría de que las mujeres que son las consentidas de su padre avanzan mucho. Es muy necesario tener ese amor de tu padre, si eres mujer, para poder enfrentarte con los golpes de la vida. Pero también mi madre tuvo un poco de envidia y frustración al final de su vida porque yo siempre hice lo que me dio la gana y mi madre conformó y se amargó mucho al final de su vida. Buena pregunta. All right.
De hecho, mi pregunta es como un follow-up de esa. Estoy criando a 2 hijas y cada que veo a mujeres que admiro, trato de entrar en su cerebro y ver qué fue lo que te hizo, qué tengo que hacer yo como mamá para criar mis hijas. Y me gustaría no estar frustrada al final de mi vida, pero me gustaría saber que yo sé que usted eligió no tener hijos sino tener libros, pero me gustaría saber qué fue parte de su crecimiento que la hizo decir, me vale lo que la gente diga, yo voy a hacer lo que yo quiero. So I'm saying that I'm raising 2 daughters, and I like to pick the brains of women that I admire and ask them, what is it in your upbringing that made you say, I'm going to do whatever I want, I'm going to do it however I want it. And so it's kind of a follow-up to the previous question, kind of wanting to know, what is it? What do I need to know as a mother? Even though there's tons of books, I feel like being a mother is challenging because you're shaping little minds, and it's very stressful. And so I just want to ask you, like, what do you think?
For someone who didn't want to be a mother, I sure mother a lot of people. Like my brothers and all the Macondo writers. I'm constantly mothering, even for someone who didn't want that occupation. But I don't know how I was able to keep going. I don't know where I got that. I just always knew from the time I was a child that I was going to be a writer. I didn't expect to be speaking in front of the public because I was very shy, and I was very intimidated by people. So I didn't expect the amount of public speaking and the responsibility that comes with the fame, because there is a responsibility to having to cumplir. A mí me tocó. yo no elegí esta vida, a mí me tocó y tuve que aceptarlo. I feel that I am very blessed. I didn't choose the fame, and I chose to be a writer. I didn't choose to be a public speaker and to have the fame and to get the money that I earned. I didn't choose that, and I don't really know why, because there are many good writers, many good, better than me. Maybe they wrote in the wrong century. Maybe they wrote in the wrong language. Maybe they didn't have the heterosexuality. Maybe they write poetry instead of writing fiction. There's a lot of things stacked against a writer. Why me? I think it's because I was given this responsibility so that I could share it. And I could share it speaking, and it's a responsibility to be wiser than I want to be. I'm constantly trying to improve my mind so that I can give you some help when you come to me, and the public I have is asking for a nurse, a therapist, a shaman, things that other writers don't get asked. People are having nervous breakdowns in front of me. I have to be ready to direct them. And it's not something I chose, pero a mí me tocó. I love that phrase. A mí me tocó, y ni modo, tengo que cumplir.
So we'll just take the two more questions, your question and then your question, and then we'll bring things to a close.
And if you got a question and you're too shy, because I would not have been this brave, you can write to me on my website. I answer on my mail. I would not write on my Instagram because I don't manage that. Write to me on my website.
And Sandra will also be signing books.
Yes.
So that's a good time to do a short question, though. Short question when she's signing books so other people can get there.
Yes.
And no, usted primero.
Thank you so much. Is this working? Thank you so much for your presence, Sandra. As an artist myself, it feels so nourishing to have your stories and imagination fill my heart. And my question is, how do you, in your thinking about your early stages in your creative process, how were you able to prioritize and defend that creative space in a capitalist world that doesn't honor or value, as I experience it, creative processes as essential for our survival and our existence? And puedo traducirlo también. Mi pregunta básicamente es cómo ha priorizado el espacio para crear creativamente en un sistema capitalista que no nos permite el tiempo y espacio para ser artistas.
No siempre me fue fácil. Tuve muchos fracasos y yo creo que los fracasos de la vida, los trancazos me ayudaron más que los premios. Los premios me ayudaron, pero los fracasos de la vida a fuerza te tienes que levantar y seguir adelante. Sí. Y hubo etapas en mi vida que no lo pude hacer, no me pude levantar por depresión, por ganas de suicidarme, por fuertes cosas que me pasaron. Así que no fue fácil, pero por alguna razón los ancestros, los ángeles, me ayudaron, guiaron a encontrar ayuda en esas etapas, encontrar una terapista, enfrentarme con gente que me guiaron a una terapista. I was very lucky that in the mistakes and failures in my life, when I felt most suicidal and depressed and didn't feel that I could do anything with my writing because I couldn't make money from it, and I was a failure at everything else, so what good was I? And when I went through those stages, I was very lucky that people came into my life to rescue me and guide me, or the angels and ancestors picked me up when I really had my face in the dust. I think when those moments when I had my face in the dust, like when I was teaching at Latino youth and collecting the stories from House on Mongoose Street, or when my friend was stuck in Bosnia and I didn't know what to do about the Bosnian War, and I'm very familiar with Sarajevo because I lived there. Those moments when I've been absolutely impotent is sometimes when we open a channel to, and it's opened by love. It's opened by love. And I say this, and House of Mongoose Street taught me this, and it's the secret to my success, and I'll share it with you. whatever you do, con puro amor y amor puro, on behalf of those you love, with no personal agenda, with no what will I get out of it. Whatever you do con amor puro y puro amor, siempre sale bonito. It will always turn out well. You may not see it right away. It may take 20, 30 years, a lifetime. But I truly believe that's a law of the universe. Creo mucho en lo que la Casa en Mango Street me enseñó cuando estuve totalmente impotente y me sentí más triste y dudaba de mi carrera de escritora, dudaba de la importancia de la literatura. Pero yo siento que cuando estás así tan apachurrada y cuando intentas crear algo con amor puro y puro amor para tus queridos, sin ninguna agenda personal, siempre sale bonito. Es lo que mi vida, les puedo asegurar, que lo que mi vida me ha enseñado.
Muchas gracias.
Me acuerdo.
De la madre que tenía dos hijas.
Y no, yo no lo dije en español. Ay, perdón, disculpe, qué lista, qué buena que me dijiste. ¿Qué fue la pregunta otra vez?
Es que está hablando de una pregunta sobre ser mamá porque tiene las dos hijas.
Ajá.
Un consejo.
Un consejo. ¿Verdad? ¿Qué dije? Sí, escritores, sí. Ay, ¿qué más dije?
Sí.
No me acuerdo.
Pero fue bien profundo.
Sí. Mira, yo creo que el consejo te puede, ¿sabes qué? El consejo que te voy a decir, que cualquier cosa que se hace con puro amor, sin ninguna agenda personal, siempre te va a salir bonito. Es el consejo, y las madres saben eso. Las madres son puro amor y amor puro, most of the time. Most of the time, ¿no? Cuando cuando das sin pedir que te regresen algo, sin ninguna esperanza, das por el puro amor, pues esa es la profesión de la madre, ¿no? It's just when you're expecting something back that it all gets messed up, ¿no? That's what I learned. Eso es lo que mi vida y mi carrera me ha enseñado. That's the one thing I can say for sure that my life has taught me. Whatever we create with love, with amor puro, puro amor, on behalf of those we love, with no personal agenda, always turns out well.
That's exactly what, the questions that they asked were almost exactly what I was going to ask. I have a daughter who's overseas right now on a ship. She's a singer. She graduated, with her degree in singing, and so she's on a cruise ship, and she's the only, Mexican American on the ship right now sing. There's a lot of no's, a lot of shutdowns from people. How do you deal with something like that? And as a person, that knows other people that happens to, how do you get them so that they don't give up, that they
Do you want
just
to
keep
translate
going?
your question?
Sure. Yo tengo una hija que tiene 25 años que canta. Ella agarró su bachillerato en canto y está en un barco ahorita en Europa. Es la única mexicana americana que está en el barco. Pero lo que le quiero preguntar es cuando las personas te dicen no, porque tienen, para una cantante, una persona que está en cualquier arte, hay muchas puertas que se cierran que te dicen no.
Sí.
Y ella, I'm adding stuff to it, sorry, ha notado que le han usado, como decirle, quiero que seas más mexicana o más latina. Y ella dice, pues yo soy latina, ¿qué más quieren que yo haga? ¿Cómo, cuando le cierran la puerta, cómo le podemos ayudar nosotros como su support system? Que sigan adelante, to keep going, because she hears, you're not, can you be more Mexican? Even though she's Mexican American, can you be more Mexican? Can you, sing with an accent? Like that kind of stuff. And she said, a lot of doors, muchas puertas que se le cierran. How do you, obviously I was a parent, but I also want to be a supportive person, because I'm sure that you got a lot of letters that said no.
Tuve muchos fracasos en mi vida, la verdad, y como les dije, me sirvieron mucho más que los premios. Los premios me ayudaron a dejarme de un trabajo y concentrarme en escribir y cumplir obras, pero los fracasos me hicieron fuerte, me hicieron valientes, y a veces no tenía el poder para levantarme de los fracasos, pero tuve amigos que me ayudaron, que me guiaron, and if you really are suffering, you need to know to go to see a therapist if you cannot pick yourself up from your own depressions and suicidal thoughts as I did. And pero I also think one of the things I learned from my suicidal depressions was that we are connected as people to spirit allies. And we have our antepasados at any time we can tap in with. And if you don't know that, you know, find your spiritual teachers, because I find that I do my best work when I meditate and I connect with my ancestors. I know I'm never alone. I'm never lonely. I'm never alone. I'm never bored, because I just connect. I do that spirit work. I find a teacher that can help me to gather the strength from the many people that are around me all the time. I know that because my mother died and I felt her spirit leave her body. I felt it and I could feel it in the room. My father died and I could still feel his love. And I thought, wow, how come no one told me about this? Because you have to experience it yourself. And if you're not doing the practice to get all the gunk out of that channel, that's why they make altars, because altars are about puro amor with no return. It's puro amor, and it opens up that channel to your higher self to get that vibration so you can connect with spirits. It doesn't mean you're going to see spirits, although some people do, but you will maybe connect in a very intuitive way, perhaps in your dreams, perhaps in decisions you make. If you're lucky, you might get a voice in the middle of the night, like I did. But you know, you need to find your spirit roots. If you have lost that, you need to research it. You need to find your teachers. I'm 69 and I'm still learning so that I can be ready for my transformation. And I have a long way to go. So we need to find those books that connect us to our spiritual powers. Imagine having allies that aren't superheroes, that are stronger than Superman or all those Marvel comics. That's for people who are disconnected to their spirituality. But if you already have your spirit allies and you know that, if you've had the lucky experience of feeling the spirits, as I have, which is kind of spooky, you know, you get over being spooked and you say, oh, there's a strength I have. And when I'm afraid or alone or I have a task that's really great, I can ask, I need your guidance. I need you to surround me. I need to connect to my mother and my mother's mothers and my mother's fathers. And I start visualizing all of these people that are part of my DNA. And I surround myself with them, and I just feel so much gratitude. One of the things I do is I say, help me to do work that makes you proud. If you do that, I think you're on the right path.
Oh, and she absolutely loves you. So I messaged her, you know, earlier this week that you were going to be here. She was going to try to stay up till 3. I think it's 3:30 or 4 o'clock. I don't think she made it, but she just was like,
well, you can just pass
I'm going to
along.
grab a book, and I'm hoping you can sign it for
I'm
her.
putting these things in my new book of essays. I have a new book of essays called Exploding Cigars and North Stars. So a lot of these things that I'm learning, I will share in that text. Okay? So don't worry.
Bueno,
Yo creo
Sandra.
que ya, ¿no?
Yeah. Anyway, es que gracias por todo, toda la gente aquí. So buy books over there. Good job.